Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Zombicide Season 3, Rue Morgue from Cool Mini or Not. This is the newest standalone set. As you can hear, there's a lot of stuff in that box. This is the newest standalone set in the Zombicide universe. You had the original, which is now called Season 1 retroactively, and you had Season 2, Prison Outbreak, and now you have Rue Morgue, and all of them can work together. You can take bits from one and add it into with the other and play them standalone. You also have the Toxicity Mall expansion, which is not standalone, but which can also be integrated into this game. And soon there will be Angry Neighbors, another sort of side expansion that you can't play on its own, but you can mix with all of the others. Now, Zombicide has consistently stayed the same in the core rules of how it's played, just adding new bits and new types of zombies here and there. Rue Morgue probably has some of the most drastic changes in that, in addition to a new type of zombie, the Skinner zombies, which might spawn crawler zombies, another new type of zombie, and in addition to having things like a helicopter and all kinds of new types of gear and event triggers, which are just sort of minor changes, you now have two different modes of play. You have team mode, where every player either has a few survivors that they have on a team with each other and have access to special team actions, or actually separate players team up in order to make teams and again have access to special team actions. Together with that, you can now do a competitive mode. Competitive mode is where all the different teams of players are officially rivals. You're not playing cooperatively anymore. You're trying to get as many points as possible, experience points to be precise. You add up the experience points of the different team members at the end of the game when the objective has been met, and whoever has the most is going to be the winner. And now you can target other players with your weapon. So that's probably the most drastic change to Zombicide. Let's go ahead and take a brief look at all the new bits and how some of these rules work. Then we're going to come back and I'll let you know what I think. Alright, I'm just going to run you through the new stuff that comes in Zombicide Season 3 Rue Morgue. This is a standalone game, so you can play it by itself. I'm not going to go over a thorough explanation of the rules. You can watch my review of the original Zombicide for that, and I might have gone over the rules in Prison Outbreak. I can't really remember. But I'm just going to show you some of the new stuff that comes in the game. So just to go over the simple stuff first, of course the game comes with new items and new zombie activation cards. You have wounded cards and all the typical tokens that you can expect from any edition of Zombicide. There are some interesting new weapons, at least I think they're new. It's hard to keep track of what showed up in previous sets already, but one cool thing here is the bow, which, let's see if I can just focus in here. The bow is actually a new type of basic weapon, so the starting survivors may actually start with this. It's a pretty cool ranged weapon in that it hits on a 3, 4, 5, or 6. It only does 1 damage, which isn't that great, but it has exploding dice. So if you roll a 6 when you're attacking with it, you actually get to do +1 damage. So it means it could take out a more powerful zombie. Then you have the sword, which I think is pretty cool. I like all the different melee weapons. Hits on a 4, 5, or 6. You get to roll 3 dice with it. The knife is cool because if you have it equipped with another melee weapon, you actually get to roll an extra die when you're attacking. The saber is another really awesome sword weapon, but it does 2 damage, which is more than the sword does, so that's really the main benefit of that. The urban mace, which I just think is funny. And then you have a new kind of super pimp weapon that you could possibly get, the La Guillotine. And of course there's always going to be a new zombie spawn card, unfortunately, that you may have to deal with, which makes the new Skinner zombies come out, which I'll get back to in a second. And then you have the bulletproof vest. Now the bulletproof vest is only going to be used if you're playing the brand new competitive mode. And just to talk about that real quick, because it's just very, very simple. Essentially what the competitive mode is, you'll still take survivors as normal, but now you can attack other survivors, and you win the game if your team, which is another new thing in the game, if your team has the most experience points between each other's members at the end of the game. The bulletproof vest is simply, you can, because it's really easy to shoot survivors, you can at least take a few hits. Like you take 1 hit, you flip it over, it's damage, take another hit, get rid of the card. More hits means more actual wounds that you have to take, but that's just a brief synopsis of how the competitive mode works. For the team mode, I guess we'll just jump right into that. At the beginning of the game, you can set up a team of survivors. Now, if you're just one player taking control of multiple survivors, you can count them as a team, but also multiple players controlling individual survivors or having their own groups of survivors can team up, essentially. How this is represented in gameplay, aside from a potential competitive mode, is also with these team cards. Now, the team cards are one-time or are one-use cards. Well, I should say you can use them once during the activation of any of the team members. So any particular team member can use one of these cards, and it doesn't count as their activation. It just gives them an action that everyone on the team can do, if they can do it. For instance, Charge says that you get one free move action, then one free melee action in a zone containing zombies or rival team member. So that would be for competitive mode. You have Move, which is just one free move action. You have Shoot. These are all pretty basic, which is just one free ranged action. So each team will have a set of those cards, and you'll decide which one you're going to use during your activation. Just pretty basic stuff there. Some other new stuff that comes in the game, you have these reveal or mystery tokens, or I'm sorry, event tokens maybe they're called. You'll actually put these down on tiles, and all they really mean is that instead of spawning zombies as normal when you walk into a new building or area, instead, if a survivor ends their action on a tile that has one of those markers, you'll flip it over to its checked side and then spawn zombies. I'm sure you could use those for other types of things, but that's really the main way that they're used. Okay, let's cover the helicopter now, since that's kind of sitting out there like a sore thumb. The helicopter is used in a number of different scenarios, and sometimes it's just sort of like a set piece. But there are new survivors in the game that can actually pilot the helicopter. It's a new skill that they'll start the game off with. And this is actually what this little standee is for. You'll put when you're actually piloting the helicopter, you'll fly around with it. It's really just a fast way to get around the board and a safe way to get around the board, because you can't interact with any other actors, quote unquote, like other zombies or survivors, while you're in the helicopter. These numbered tokens are actually used for the spawn points. So the way that it'll work is that you'll have a spawn point out on the board, and the scenario will tell you which numbered tokens you have next to it. Then when you're spawning zombies in this version of the game, you will actually roll dice according to a different number of survivors. And depending on the number of survivors, you'll roll a certain amount of dice, I should say. And then if they come up as the numbers next to that particular spawn point, the zombie cards that you draw will apply to those spawn points, which is I don't know, interesting way to do it. It doesn't really add much to the game. Now, speaking of spawn points, most of the cards are just the same as far as bringing out zombies, but there's a couple of new ones, and that has to do with these different cards these are actually medical tent cards that you will put out on the board, and you'll see that some of them have different blue and green colored beds inside, because those correspond to these zombie spawn cards. These are actually going to be used to bring out the new Skinner zombies. So if you draw one of these, the crawler zombies, you draw one of these and it'll say to spawn a crawler on each of these different colored beds. The crawler zombies are these happy little fellows here. So actually, yeah, we'll just go straight into zombie mode now, and I'll show you some of the new zombies that come in this set. These are the crawlers. The way that crawlers are made, in this game you have all the typical types of zombies. You have the fatty zombies. They all look a little bit different. Here's an example of one of the walkers. And here's one of the runners. The runners are always the ones I like the most as far as how they look on their bases. And of course, you have the Berserker. And this is the the Abomination. This is the pointiest Abomination they have made yet, I believe. So anyways, the way that the crawlers work is, let's go ahead and say that you're attacking a group of zombies other than the Abomination. And you roll to hit. Here's the new dice for this set, by the way. They always have a different colored dice. This one actually has bullets. I don't think this might be the first set that did that. You roll the dice, and you get a number of hits against these walkers or runners or fatties, and you kill them. Well, fantastic. But if you killed some of those zombies, and some of the dice that you rolled as part of that attack came up as 1, which in this case is the zombie head, those zombies that you killed turn into crawlers for every one that you have and for every hit that you have paired up. Crawlers are just like normal walker zombies. They take 1 damage weapon to kill, and they move very, very slowly. The problem is they are last in targeting order. You will hit everything else before crawlers. That's not that big a deal, but it just is a big deal that you're killing zombies and they're just, falling in half instead of dying. So it can get pretty overwhelming fairly quickly. Let's see. Other new stuff in the game that I feel like going over. Well, I guess we'll just go over the Well, let's go over the tiles first. There's a lot of actually pretty cool looking tiles here. You have these are like different hospital areas going hand in hand with the hospital tents. There's a grocery store. All of them with the lovely blood spatter and gore that you've come to expect. Some of it looks really grotesque in this one for some reason. I don't even know what that is, but anyways, there's a helipad, which obviously you'll put the helicopter token on. This is where the medical tents would go, and just a bevy of different stuff. Like, look at that! I don't even know what that is. But, this game is slipping more and more into Resident Evil territory, and I can't say I'm unhappy about that, actually. And then finally, you have the survivors. Here's all their different miniatures. Unpainted, they don't really look like much, I have to say. One day I'll paint at least the survivors in my set. But here's all the different ones that you come in the game. They do come with their Zombie Force side as normal, although this, at least the base retail set, does not have their Zombivore version miniatures. I'm assuming those are going to be coming along in another wave of the Kickstarter. But you have Dan, Parker, Travis. Travis is one of the helicopter pilots, as a matter of fact. I think there might be 3 in this set. You have Bear and Terry, James, Lori, Lori, or that's Laura, whatever. Scavenger, Blood. I was about to call her Bloodlust Melee, but Bloodlust Melee is a cool ability. I think it might be new to the set, where you can actually, when you damage zombies, you can actually kill an additional zombie of the same type as long as you're in melee. Then Louise, Fast Roping, which I believe has to do with the helicopter. But and Sprint, oh man, Kathy has a sprint ability. That's amazing. For one move action, you get to move up to 3 spaces once per round. I think that's slightly better than the roller skating waitress's ability. But anyways, yeah, that's basically all the new stuff that comes in Zombicide Season 3 Rue Morgue. Lots of the same types of Zombicide stuff, but a few interesting twists, some less interesting than others. Let's go ahead and get to my final thoughts. Now, I really love Zombicide. I actually get a lot of hate for that, and not in my own group necessarily, but in a couple of the other groups that I'm in, like the Dice Tower group, because Zombicide, some people just hate it. Some people just think it's too simple. They hate the targeting rule, where you target other survivors, but I just kind of ignore them, because I think that for what it is, it works very well. I like cooperative games, I like zombie games, I love games with a ton of miniatures and a cool theme, and I really think the Zombicide hits it out of the park. It's not very complex, but it doesn't really need to be. You grab a bunch of cool gear and you mow through some zombies, and I love it. And I'm okay with every set of Zombicide being mostly the same, as long as it adds some really cool stuff. And I felt like Prison Outbreak and Toxic City Mall changed the game pretty heavily. I liked the different zombie types. They felt new and fresh at the time. The new player boards and all the new little bits and gates and barbed wire fences and things that Prison Outbreak had, and Toxic City Mall, I think, was a set that introduced the idea of the Zombivores, which I wasn't on board with at first, but I kind of came around on, especially when you're doing really difficult scenarios. In addition to that, it just kind of pimped out your game with that really cool skull token. So I was still pretty on board with all of that. And I'm not saying that Rue Morgue is a bad set by any stretch of the imagination. It's more Zombicide, and more Zombicide is good. But I will say this. If you're new to Zombicide and you have your option of the 3 different standalone sets, this is the one I would get last. I would definitely get, well, I think at this point I'd get Prison Outbreak is probably your best bet, because it has the most cool content and bang for your buck there. But then I would get Season 1, and then if you really love the game, come back to this one. Again, it's not because it's bad, it just feels like there are some things in this set of the game that are supposed to be revolutionary and really change your entire Zombicide experience, but just felt really tacked on to me, and something I really wouldn't be interested in exploring. The new zombies, the Skinners, are kind of cool. I don't really like the way that they look, like the color of them, but okay, they needed to pick a color to differentiate them from the others for people that don't paint. And that's fine. The thing is, the whole walkers, or actually fatties and runners turning into crawlers potentially, is a very cool idea, and it definitely makes the game more difficult, as if it wasn't difficult enough already in some of the different scenarios. But it also adds like an extra little bit of annoyance, because now you're having to look at the not just the hit numbers, but the ones on all of your dice, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but sometimes you're rolling a lot of dice, and it doesn't seem like that would happen very often, but it happens a lot. If you're rolling 4 dice for an attack, the odds of you getting a hit and a 1 are very, very likely, and it just kind of feels like a game lengthener, not to a very absurd degree, but enough. So as cool as it is, I would probably say this is my least favorite of like the flavored zombies. You have the toxic ones and the berserker ones. I'm not as big a fan of these, because I think it's kind of just clunky the way that it works. Other new things in the game, the event triggers, I really don't see a need for those. The way that it works is that you put one on a tile, and instead of spawning, let's say that's in a building, instead of spawning zombies in that space when you pop open the door, you wait until a survivor ends their action on that tile, and then you spawn zombies. I guess that's supposed to prevent there being like you pop into a huge building and like tons of zombies come out and they just bottleneck, and then it becomes like almost impossible for you to get through. That happens very rarely, but for the most part I didn't think it was a huge issue. You're trying to kill zombies, okay? That's what this whole game is about. You're not trying to be too strategic about it, so that kind of feels tacked on. The 2 different modes of the game. Team mode, I am not interested in, but this set is really built from the ground up to use it, it seems like to me. I mean, right in the setup, they're describing break up into teams. Now, really, you don't have to do it that way. You can just do it the way you've always played Zombicide, but this game really encourages that with the special team action cards, which, again, not a huge deal. But kind of understand where I'm coming from here. I don't like it when any game tacks on a team mode. I think you should never bother with that in Star Realms. I think that the 6-player team board for Small World is atrocious and nobody should play it. That's just kind of has been my experience, and Rue Morgue did not really change my mind with the team mode. I played it a couple times like that, and I was like, again, clunky, unnecessary. Let's work together and just get through this. And the worst offender here, I think, is the competitive mode. Why bother? I just don't know who wanted that. Part of the huge appeal that I had for this game was the cooperative mode. I mean, that's kind of what the game is built for. I understand that you have like The Walking Dead and you have other zombie movies and fiction where it's really about the survivors and the survivors fighting each other, but that doesn't feel like this kind of game. This is not a storytelling game. I want that. I've got Dead of Winter. I'll play Dead of Winter. That's what that's for, where you have some cooperation, but then the competitiveness. But that game was built from the ground up for that. In the rules for Rue Morgue, they admit that this was just competitive mode tacked onto the normal mode. They didn't change anything else to balance it out in any way, shape, or form, because, in their words, that's the way Zombicide is. Well, okay, that's the way Zombicide is. I want to play it cooperatively. That's the way that it is. I probably sound more upset than I am, than I should be for this. I like this set because it adds more stuff to the game. More tiles. Overall, I do like that there's another type of zombie to worry about, and if you can get over the clunkiness, it's okay. And hey, the helicopter is, doesn't do much. You just travel around. You can't shoot zombies out of it, which is kind of disappointing, or even throw a Molotov down. I was like, that's kind of weak. But hey, it looks cool when you have it set up and it's on like the little tower and it's moving around. Okay, great. I like that. So if you just are interested in getting more stuff, if you're already like totally committed and you're drinking the Kool-Aid for Zombicide, great. You'll probably want to get this because it's more cool stuff, but I would urge you to not bother with the other modes. I don't think they're worth it unless you've played Zombicide 50 times and you really need something to freshen it up. To me, this is to have a new type of zombie to play around with, to have new weapons and new, there's all kinds of different gear cards I didn't go over, but, and they're fine too. It's just more variety, which is great, new kinds of pimp weapons, but really go for Prison Outbreak. I think that's the better set to get. I just think that this, or even Toxic City Mall, if you've already got one of the other seasons, get that before you get this, because this is more of the same, but with some extra stuff that just doesn't feel integrated very well. So overall, I still love Zombicide. This one felt a little bit flat for me.